Okay, hello. I'm going to just talk about a few numbers um, in November. Interesting dates. Actually, yesterday was an interesting date. We're actually the 18th of November today, and I just want to go through some of the connections with the date. Today's date, yesterday's date, and some upcoming connections through into next year as well. So, where do I begin? Okay, what I've got in here, this table here, if you don't know what this is, you can just go and check out that video there, okay? Because I haven't got time really to explain all this. Very quickly though, these are number sequences in here. This is regular number line at the top here. This is the Fibonacci sequence, this is the Lucas sequence, and these are two more sequences I bunged in here. This one I call pi, and this one I call phi. Okay, pi for obvious reasons. Phi for maybe not so obvious reasons, but anyway, I'm not even explaining why I called it that, but what we have, what came up in here when I first did this, what was interesting about it was the first thing is there's some symmetry with the way I laid this out, right, which is this 235 and the 235 here. Okay, now if you've seen some of my decodes recently, you'll know that Michael J. Fox is actually, we just went past, and I can't remember what day it was now. It might have been on the 11th or the 10th, but he was 23532 days, so he had a palindromic number that reflected these numbers here. Okay, and so this table is kind of slightly symmetrical. Part of the reason why I laid it out like this. Another reason is I noticed this straight off the bat, the 55 and 88 that occurs right here as totals for these columns, and of course subsequently decided to call this the metaphysical tower, and this is the physical tower for the twin towers here, and then tower 7 is right here, these numbers down here. Okay, so with that being said, what I've got in here is I've got this upward triangle. Yes, the square and the compass stuff in here right now, but we've got the upward triangle, and that upward triangle is the clock tower. Yeah, you put the pillars in for the clock tower, you put the clock in, the clock face, 10:04, the 14 numerology here, the lightning coming down is the 55, hitting the top of the clock tower, comes through the line here, which is 9:11, and then it goes over to the side of the street here, and on the side of the street we have a barber pole. Okay, which again, the barber pole looks like a maypole. There's May Day there, the 1st of May. And if we come up to Fibonacci now, this 0 in Fibonacci is really not totally correct in terms of the Fibonacci cycle. In terms of the Fibonacci sequence, it's okay, but if we were to make this into a cycle, cut a long story short, that 0 there, ground 0, would actually be a 9. Okay, and so this is the Western Auto sign on the side of the wall. Here's the fire trails, yeah, which is made with the 11 of the 911 here, which is all to do with Fibonacci numbers. Okay, and right where the fire trails come through the line, you also get the symbol for pi made, and that symbol for pi, obviously the numbers for pi are right here as well. So I know that's a bit of a mess. If you're following along with that, I've shown that several times before, but absolutely fascinating that you can have a chart that you can actually physically put the shape of the clock tower into and overlay with the numbers that are showing up in the film Back to the Future. Okay, well, with that clock, with the clock face there on the 14, what you notice is above is the number 11, and this is Charles's birthday right here. Charles, the connection to Charles and the clock tower is the numbers on the clock tower. So we've got Charles's birthday. The clock tower itself is the temple of Athena, or the temple of Diana. So this temple, this Greek Greco-Roman style building, okay, is, of course, when we go to the Roman side of things, is the temple of Diana. Okay, super duper interesting. Charles and Diana. Now what's super important about what's been going on is this connection back to the White Wedding. And Charles and Diana's White Wedding is the 29th of July. Okay, notice that 29 is in the 7th column here, 729. This number 29 perfectly balances this 11 and 18. Yeah, reduce 11 is 2, reduce 18, it's 9. Add those two together equals 29. So it's the perfect White Wedding number to keep these two numbers, to keep the individuality of the two numbers here, but also combine the two numbers. Okay, right, what else have we got here? Oh, redo that. So all I did, so we've got, in keeping with keeping things balanced here, okay, I have put in, we've got the upward arrow, I've put the downward arrow. So we have these two things balanced, yeah, the compass and square, right? Now, and again, that's important to have the compass and square, because the compass and square are representing two different physical dimensions, or non-dimensions, in terms of the circle, that the metaphysical, and then the physical being the physical realm. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I don't want to waffle on about this too long, but anyway. So, what I want to show you in terms of numbers that are in here. Well, firstly, yesterday's number was the 17th of November, and if we take from the 11th, so it's a super duper important number. If we just borrow this digit off the 18 here, it's perfectly balanced. We've got a 7 on one side, a 1 on the other side, and an 11 in the middle. But the 17th of November is a very interesting number, because there are 44 days left in the year, and it is the 321st day of the year. Okay, we're on the 18th today, which happens to be the 322nd day of the year. Yeah, the skull and bones number. Okay, what you'll notice is that that number is the 12th. Again, it's a number to do with completion, number 12. Okay, and the number 10 is also to do with completion, and then this number in the middle here is to do with balancing these two numbers, the number 11. And so when you drop these, when you come back over to here halfway, well, here's your half for 10, here's your half for 12, and then of course in the middle here is again your 55, your 5.5 now, half of 11. Okay, so 55 is super duper important. Obviously, it's, look, the 10th Fibonacci number. This is also, these grey numbers here are just totals up to this 10 column. So coming across, this is everything totaled up. So of course this is looking very interesting here. This would be a triangular number, 10th triangular number, 55. So you see, just see how often 55 shows up. It's right here. Yeah, super duper important. It's right here. Like, it's just absolutely mental. Okay. But anyway, now you can see, look, 321 happens to be every single number, you know, these numbers going across here, like this, these all have a corresponding one digit less number. And to find that one digit less number, you have to jump over. So for like 843, the total up to this point here, if I jump over one set of numbers, will be 842. Yeah, the runtime for Bye Bye Miss American Pie. Yeah, interesting that it's, the total of this whole row all the way across to and including 322. Super duper important, that, yeah. Okay, but you can see how that works. I just have that row in there. I just have this row in here on the number 10s, yeah. And what you'll see is that for here, 1, 2, 3 is 3, 2, 1 is the total. So that is absolutely crazy. Remember, we had Ozzy. His birthday was the 3rd of December. He just died this year, what else do I want to say about this? Let's look at, so 7-11, 11-17 is all to do with, this number here, which is connected back to this number here, which is connected back to this number here, and this number here is what? This number here is the next set of numbers on. This is getting way too messed up. Let's get rid of some of this real quick. So this number here, 322nd day of the year, is right here. Mickey Mouse's birthday, right here. Yeah, 11-18. Okay. If you recall, I did that Pluto thing. The stuff like Lucas numbers is all connected to numbers with Pluto, and I did that Pluto decode, and that date that came out was right in between Donald Trump's birthday and the Queen's birthday, and it happened to be the date between those two things was 11-17. I can't remember what year it was now, a year or two ago. Okay, 11-17 between those two people, and that's where that one Pluto orbital cycle finished. Okay, so that might not make any sense to anybody, but if we look at the other side of the year, if we were to look at, we can probably look at it in just a second, but 11-17, if we went to the other side of the year, what we're going to see is something interesting with this 213. Let me see if I've got it in here. Yeah, I do. So if I go to February now, and I go to February the 13th, 321, yeah, countdown numbers, don't forget, 321, 44th day of the year is February the 13th, 213. Now that is in the dollar bill. That number jump from 9/11 to February the 13th is in the dollar bill. It's a 155-day jump. Do we notice something here that is encoded in the dollar bill? 155 is encoded in the dollar bill from 9/11 to 213. I'm not going to show you that number jump now, but if you'll watch the channel regular, you'll know about it. Let's get rid of that. So let's just go back to this side of the year very quickly, just so that we can double check. Yeah. So you'll see that the 12th of February is matching up with today's date, the 18th. Yeah, 322. Okay, and 43 days. So if we just whiz through, just to show you, the 17th, 321, 44, and 322 is the 18th. So these two dates here are super duper important. Especially when we're talking about 11-18 here as well, right? And so you'll see some other stuff in here, other dates. So when you do the lightning strike and it's coming down and we have 9/11 referenced with the wire, well, look what's symmetrical with that. 11/23, that date's coming up. That's going to be could be a big date for something to happen. And notice that if that were to happen, what's encoded there is, or what's part of that is the 923 stuff. Tons and tons of 923 stuff with end of the world dates and all that stuff. Okay. So what other stuff that we've seen recently? A lot of 331 references. Okay. on this side of the, this would be the womb side, depending on which way up this is though. Okay. Obviously the 5th of November is here, and obviously the 8th of November, obviously the 7th of November. Just depends on how you want to string things together here. 7-Eleven is right here. Don't forget about Donald Trump with the old 7-Eleven. Supposed slip. It's not a slip. It's deliberately put in there because this is what he's talking about. 7-Eleven, which is, yes, it is also 9/11. If you change your month around for the wording of the month. But anyway, I watched a few minutes of Decoding with Cody's video for the 17th of November, and this is part of the reason why I'm doing this, is just to show some of the numbers and the connections here. Now, he was looking at the game between the Dallas Cowboys on the 17th and the Raiders in Las Vegas, okay? And obviously Las Vegas with the Luxor, very super connected to the pyramid. Also, this is all connected to the Hoover Dam as well. That's just down the road there in Vegas as well. And there's multiple connections with stuff. Elvis, what else? I'm thinking even just the Raiders Stadium nicknamed the Death Star, So there's just tons of little references with Vegas, right? A couple of things to note when we're looking. We've had a lot of stuff that's went this way with 9/11, so there could be an idea of focusing on stuff over here, like the 86 and the 222 are down here, and 53, 37, these numbers here, okay, 18, all these numbers, right? So we've had a lot of stuff. The Charlie Kirk stuff is all connected back to this, but it all comes back to Charles and Diana, and this thing being the church, the Temple of Diana being the church, and Charles here, and this thing being reunited, so a lot of stuff with the wedding, the white wedding stuff. Now remember, from Charlie Kirk's, from the white wedding, which was 7/29/81, was 44 years and 44 days to Charlie Kirk, CK, KC, King Charles, Charlie Kirk's death. Okay, super duper interesting as well. But I'll show you something about the 44 in just a minute. Okay, but you'll also notice that with the 322, look at the numbers, the 144 in here and the 411. Okay, and also notice that when we're coming across this pyro here is the number 410 as well, showing up as the completion here. So this is the total up to this 157, all these added up, 410 again. Just numerology for the clock tower, Charlie Kirk, yada yada yada, King Charles. Right. So anyway, Cody was talking about 44 quite a bit, but that's all to do with the white wedding, and I will show you why 44 is important in just a second, to do with the white wedding and the Queen again. But another number he was looking at was the number 294, and I think he was showing the gematria for Dallas Cowboys, or something to do with Dallas Cowboys. Was the gematria was 294, okay? And another guy he was talking about was a guy that plays for the Cowboys as well, which was Ferguson. And Ferguson had I'll show you the number jump in just a second. It was a 9800 number jump. Yeah, 98. This is the 11th column here. 89. This is all to do with the Queen as well. His 9/11. That's all to do with the Queen, and her funeral date 199. Okay, the 19th of September, dies on the 8th of September, yada yada yada. Okay, so that's all super duper important, and again, it's super duper important because it's to do with this, which is to do with this, right? So you're going to see, these numbers connecting up with. That's why New Year's Eve looks super duper interesting with the 364 as well, as predicted in Ghostbusters 2. Right? But anyway, this number here, let me show you why this is super duper important, because this is potentially another king's wedding day here, okay? And the king we're going to be talking about, and let me show you some of these number jumps as well with the game that was on, this evening, yesterday, on the 17th of November. Let me show you why this is important, and this was popping up for Cody, and let me show you what I saw as well. And I'm not sure if Cody mentioned this or not, but right at the start of that, so the first thing is, what is that number, right? These two, William and Kate, right? That's their wedding date, 2/9/4/2011, okay? So he's potentially probably likely to become the next King of England, this dude right here, right? So this is super duper interesting, isn't it? Yeah? Super duper interesting that they just happen to pick that day. Yeah? It's almost like they know something, right? Well, obviously they do. They completely know about all this stuff, right? They must do, right? So that is again another wedding date reference, right? Anyway, if we go to the game, the Cowboys and the Raiders game, which again 3-2-2 Skull and Bones, with today's date, the 18th of November. So this is the dude that Cody was talking about, Jake Ferguson. Again, he's got 118 numerology for his birthday, Jan 18th, 99. Let's do his number jump through to the game day. 9800. 9800. Okay. Super duper interesting, obviously, with the Queen, with her death date, right? And I'll show you why this 98 ties in with 44 very nicely in just a second. So I think he mentioned this. Now I'm not sure if he mentions this in his decode though. Where have I got him? Right here. George Pickens, and George is interesting as well because of course Kate and Will's firstborn they named George. So anyway, George, and obviously we'd sent George's Day and all the rest of it, but George Pickens, right? Now, the reason why I'm looking at this dude is, I don't know if Cody did anything on him or not, but right at the start of the game, they were just kept saying Pickens, the commentators were just kept saying Pickens over and over and over again. I'm just like, why they every other word out of their mouths, right, for just a few minutes was Pickens this, Pickens that. I was like, right, I'll look him up, put him in the Gematrinator, and see what we've got going on. Just out of interest as well, don't forget the Cowboys, the Dallas thing. We've got the goddess, the 5-pointed star, the blue and white, Virgin Mary stuff, right? Okay, put his March the 4th, 2001 in. March the 4th, 2001, and lo and behold, 9024. Read that number backwards, 429. The white Will and Kate's white wedding, right? The halftime score was 24-9. The halftime score. If you're going to talk about a midpoint, a balance point in the game, the midpoint is halftime. Super duper interesting that the halftime score was 24-9. Just absolutely crazy. Okay. So, I actually can't remember what the full-time score was. There's obviously no doubt that you don't have to be on any kind of super duper predicting level to know that the the Raiders are absolutely useless this season, and the Cowboys were going to demolish them. But to have that halftime score pop up though is absolutely pretty amazing. And Cody, I don't know what score he was talking about, a different score, but you know, he mentioned that number, and of course when I checked this dude out, that number popped up again. I'm like, oh, you know, when after that had popped up and it was you know, the Dallas were on 24. It was 24-6, and I'm like, it's just going to be a field goal here. There's no way they're going to go up the field with a score. It's just going to be a field goal to bring it to 24-9, and that's what it was. Yeah, just pretty predictable, but only a few minutes before the actual fact. So that was the interesting thing that happened today. There was also, you know, there's some ongoing synchronicities, and obviously the idea is that this point here is the tunnel, right? The point between here, or you could look at this as the tunnel, or you know, somewhere around this point here is the tunnel. So there's going to be a reference to coming out of the tunnel, which is the idea of being born. And as I go on about all the time, you know, at the Hoover Dam, there's the 2 inlet towers on each side of the Hoover Dam. And again, the idea of coming out of that tunnel is the idea of the dam breaking, the waters breaking, and the rebirth ritual. Okay, so that is what we're going to see at some point here in the not too distant future, I'm sure. What date that is, I don't know. I just keep guessing, you know, I'm going around in circles. I'm mostly now just repeating stuff, dates that I've talked about before. All these dates that I've shown you so far here are dates that I've talked about before. You know, tonight, the midnight hour is an interesting time for something to happen. There was several little connections that I noticed for today into tomorrow for Madonna with the Channel Tunnel again, that whole Channel Tunnel idea of some kind of train incident in the underground tunnel. If you remember the Ghostbusters video, I don't know if I showed you the very start of that, but the Ghostbusters music video with Bobby Brown it starts at an underground opening for, you know, a tube station, an underground train station. Yeah, and I think it's 8-9. I think it's this number here. Yeah, notice that we've seen a lot of that number popping up with this idea. Oh dear, the snake eyes, the rest of it, right? But yeah, so there's been some stuff. I'm going to go through some of those number jumps now. I've pretty much covered a lot of these numbers, but of course, you know, the next big, if you just put a 0 here, the next big, there's the Great Scott, yeah, and of course 11/29 will also be coming up. That would be a big date as well, because that would follow on into the Great Scott, yeah, St. Andrew's Day. So 11/29 would also be a big date. So, you know, the midnight hour now, the 17th into the 18th. Obviously, the 17th ties back to this number. Obviously, the 18th ties back to this number. Yeah, are you seeing something? The beginning and the end here. You know, but the problem is it's all round in circles. You know, who knows where it's really gonna, you know, where that, you know, end date is gonna be. Okay, there's been several times when I thought, you know, well, obviously if you watch a channel, there's been several times I thought, this is pretty good, you know, this date here or this date there, you know. But you can see the significance of these numbers through here, like 4/7, 1776, yeah, 1776, okay, 7/1, yeah, this number here, super duper important. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Even just the number 7 as the idea of balance between the twin towers. Yeah, the number 7 by itself. Okay, a perfect balance number. Okay. Number that God uses quite a bit. Okay, I'm just trying to think. Let me show you some of these random number jumps now. Yeah, because I could waffle on a little bit longer about this chart. But let me before we let's get off of this one and let's go to the other chart, and I'll show you the connection between so the 8-9, right? So note that Ferguson's was it 8,900 or 9,800 days, whatever it was. Okay, you'll see that in this table we're just really concerned with these red numbers between these two lines here. So these numbers here and the blue numbers in the middle here. So this is what we're concerned with. So don't get too confused with all these other numbers that are on here. Okay, so if we just look inside this box here, these are the three cycles that exist, which is Fibonacci, Lucas, and Pi. There's only three cycles that exist, so to speak, in natural mathematics. We'd say that the Fibonacci, Lucas, and the Pi cycle. Okay, those are the three cycles that exist. Now you'll see, look, 98's in here, 17, 26, 35 in the this is the middle of the whole thing, and there's the 44. Okay, 44. Yeah, there's a reason why they choose a 4x4 for Marty to get into at the end of the film. Okay, in Back to the Future, the 4x4. Yeah, and then those numbers are repeated here, just back the other way. Okay, the ones that were above. But you know, to the Queen's big death date number right there, super duper important. Anyway, I wanted to show you this because this is the center of that table. Yeah, that is the center of the table there. All to do with balance. Now, if you invert this table, okay, what you'll find is that 55 sits at the center of it. And again, of course, 55 super duper important with balance. Okay, and each one of these cycles has a set of twins. So 55 and 44 go together. In the Fibonacci sequence, it is 11 and 88. Is the 88 here. Okay, and then in Lucas numbers, it's 22 and 77. Okay, super duper important. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there for this, but just keep that in your mind, is that, you know, but when you lay these numbers, these cycles out in order, so to speak, this is probably the most logical way to lay them out, laid out in order. 44 is at the middle of that. Okay, so this is very important with Charlie Kirk death being 44 years and 44 days from the white wedding, the big white wedding. Okay, how that's even possible for that, you know, I mean, you know, it's just crazy. And for it to turn out on the end of a cycle to the beginning of another cycle, just crazy. Anyway, let's go through some of these random number jumps I've got in here. This is what I wanted to show you first. So in line with the connection with the Channel Tunnel and Madonna, this idea of Madonna maybe dying or having some kind of accident in the Channel Tunnel, or there just being some kind of thing with the Channel Tunnel, some kind of reference with it, some kind of incident. This is when they first, so there's several little dates you can pick out, right? So this is just when they started moving freight through the Channel Tunnel. That date, 6/1/94 through to today's date, the 18th of November 25, 11493. Obviously this works for yesterday's date as well if you include end date. Put the 0 in here. This is Charlie Kirk's birthday date. Okay, that is super duper important. What else have I got here? Oh, this is this is actually really interesting as well. This is Charlie Kirk's birthday through to the first sort of dedication opening ceremony of the Channel Tunnel, right? the 6th of May 94. Now look at this, 205. If you watch my stuff, you'll know that the 205 is all to do with the chalice, to do with the Holy Grail, the cup of Christ, the cup. It's also to do with that metaphysical doorway. Let's go back to this other chart. Hang on. Oh no, what am I doing? No, I just want to do this. Don't save. So when you draw the clock tower in here, okay, you know, our metaphysical doorway is right here, and the number 25 or 55, that's showing up here in the metaphysical doorway. Also, if you put in your triangular numbers here, what you'll find is that at this point this is 15, and then at this point this is 21. I'll just draw it like that. They're mirrors of one another as well in the triangular numbers. And obviously at the center of this thing is 52, 21. So this is super duper important with the doorway, 25 symbolism, okay? But yes, 205. When they drilled they drilled a pilot hole through first to break through with the Channel Tunnel. It was a 50 mil hole, 2 inches. That's the hole size they chose to drill through at, okay, to encode those numbers. Maybe it was just random, maybe it wasn't. What else we got here, Dan? Oh, this is something completely random now. This is the perfume Chanel number 5. This is when this came out, the 5th of May 1921 through to today's date. It just happened to be palindropic, 38183. It was just interesting. The reason why that's so interesting, let me just jump onto it a second. Where is this guy? This is the guy that brought out that stuff, right? Chanel number 5, right? So it's probably the most famous perfume in the world. I think everybody's heard of it, haven't they? This guy is called Ernest Beau, right? Look at his death date. That is Michael J. Fox's birthday. So this you know, was really interesting just because of the connection with the Channel Tunnel and Chanel and Channel being very similar words. The number 5 obviously to do with the metaphysical, and just the fact that that was coming out, you know, fairly interestingly with a palindromic number on this particular day, and also, oh, I'll show you that. Oh yeah, that's, hang on there. And also, this is again, what's this number in there I've got? This is also a number jump from the Channel Tunnel, I think. I can't remember what it is now. This is the problem. 13383. I believe it's something to do with where is the Channel Tunnel? Thought I had that in here. Oh well, it don't matter. I think it's what that one is actually. Train spotting. And we've got the lube up. I don't know what that was. Okay, well, whatever. Can't bother to look for it now. This is so to jump to something completely different for a second. This is the crown jewels being stolen from the Louvre 29 days earlier to this day. So it would be interesting if on this day, if today, the 18th, they were to suddenly recover the actual jewel. I think they've arrested some people, but they haven't recovered them yet. So that would be kind of interesting if something got recovered on one of these days right here. I had something with the Louvre, but I can't. Oh no, that was the Louvre date. Yeah. Oh, this is why I picked that date. Okay. So I was looking at the Louvre there. So this is so what this is this is the underground part of the Louvre that they opened, right? Now, why did I pick that? Now, you know, in Back to the Future, they have the glass doors on the front of the clock tower, and that sort of big glass window sort of thing going on with the clock tower is pretty interesting Back to the Future too, because it kind of reminds me a little bit of that glass pyramid at the Louvre. And funnily enough, just going through here, I just noticed that it says that they have some kind of shopping mall under the Louvre downstairs. Just like in Back to the Future 2, they happen to have a shopping mall. You go down, like in an underground. They've got an opening there. If you look at the corner of the, I don't know, the square that has got the water feature. If you look at the corner of that square, they've got an actual underground tunnel down to the shopping mall. So this is super duper interesting with this idea of that being at the Louvre. And so it just said here that the underground lobby was opened on that particular day, and I thought, oh, you know, now whether that's actually the opening of the actual, I don't know where it is in here now actually. But anyway, it was the underground opening of the lobby. Anyway, so that's why that's there in that number jump there, because of this underground connection, the underground again. Okay, that's what that was. Right, okay, getting to the bottom of this stuff now. What have I got here? This was, hang on, did we just do this? What was we doing up here? Oh, that was to the 18th, that number jump. What was this? Hang on, what's this next one? Bear with me. This is, again, the Chanel number 5 to the Chanel tunnel. Okay, not quite on 5-5, notice that as well. 26664 days. This was interesting with Madonna, and in GoldenEye they reference both the tank and the train, right? And if we just look at the numbers for Madonna, tank and train, you'll see that each one of these has got this the 2662, but tank also has got this 46, and that was just interesting with that number, that set of numbers there. Okay, just random connections, kind of. So that links back to the GoldenEye, to the Channel Tunnel, to the tunnel, to the train, and to Madonna, and to the tank. Oh dear. I've got train spotting in here. Release date. What's this? No, this is not the release date of Train Spotting, but this is the gal. I probably should have done that. 96. This is Kelly Macdonald's birthday, who is the gal in it, and they released the film on her birthday in 96. She's born in 76, right? So that was her birthday through to the running of the freight trains in there, and it was the 860th prime, which was interesting as well because of, I don't know if I've got it in. I'll show you that in just a second. We'll move down to an 86 popping up, but don't forget again, this whole thing here, you know, that's why that's interesting. Okay, when we're looking down this side of the deal here, right? Okay, so don't forget, you know, we've got the 23rd coming up, which should be fairly majorly interesting, maybe. Okay, but yeah, so that was interesting. You know, just random stuff like this. You know, here's Kate and Will's wedding day, through to, this is when they opened on the 6th, the Channel Tunnel, and they did some train trips through. You know, just kind of special things on the 7th. Okay, 6201. Now, what's so interesting about that? Well, that is Prince William's birthday is the 21st of June. Okay, so it just is interesting, and then you can do this kind of stuff, and then you've got 623. This is the release date for Madonna's Who's That Girl single. Okay, not that they've got it in, that was the original date. They've since changed it to 629. You know, so there's just things like that. You know, you can fudge around with numbers, and oh, this is the release of Train Spotting through to the 17th, or yeah, the 18th. Look, 168, Madonna's birthday numbers in there again. Okay, just stuff like that keeps popping up. Here's Leo, the new Pope. Okay, now don't forget, we had all those connections with Madonna, and we had all the Titanic connections, and obviously Leonardo DiCaprio has the 11/11 birthday. Here's Pope Leo, and there's a ton of stuff, even in like a virgin. Okay, what's she dancing with? A lion man and a real lion in there as well. Leo, okay, the sun. But anyway, his birthday, 914, 55. If we look at his birthday through to Madonna's birthday, look at this. 1068, her birthday numbers again, right? We can also look at his birthday through to the freight train starting running, and what are the chances that that palindromic number comes up? 14141. Leonardo DiCaprio, Titanic, the iceberg Frozen hits the Titanic on the 14th, and then it sinks on the 15th. Okay, 14th. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. So what's the chances? So supposedly Paddington Bear is the first thing that they passed through the Channel Tunnel, or at least the English people passed through to the French people. They opted to pass a Paddington Bear through. How many bear references have we had? Paddington, obviously Paddington Station, okay, and the train reference in itself. Interesting with the 13 reference there, 58 again. I believe I've got it in here somewhere. Maybe I don't. Here it is. So as it was a 58 reference, I thought, well, I'll look at Madonna. Okay, here we go. Paddington through to Madonna again, 59 days, 17th prime. Yeah, what we talking about? Goddess numbers. Diana's birthday, 7/1. The church. If you undo that and you click on 58, 41, 58 composite, 81. I mean, it's just never ending. This was Charlie Kirk's number jumps. Okay, 44 years, 44 days. Right. And I think that's about it. And obviously, there's probably other stuff we could do. I mean, there's a ton of stuff you could go and look at for Paddington Bear. I mean, you could just go around in circles with this stuff. I will show you something though. With that 321123 that was in the table here. Okay. Now, a few years ago, I got a bit bent out of shape about a date, and I'll show you what it is to do with this 123321 stuff. That's right here. This is the birth of the Hoover Dam here through to 9/11/2023, and look what it was. 32123. A really nice palindromic number there, and I had big wonders about this day being the day that the Hoover Dam was going to fall down. We went past that. I just happened to be playing around with some number jumps. I thought, I'll just check and see how many days, 825 days, because of the referencing Back to the Future of being late, and it, the clocks are 25 minutes off, so it's 8:25. You're telling me it's 8:25? Well, if you go from that date, right, through 825 days, look what date it comes out on. This is Taylor Swift's 36th birthday here. Absolutely crazy, especially with with the amount of references with Taylor Swift. I thought, well, let's just see where from 9/11 that is, and this brings us full circle. 8860. So we have that 860th prime number back there. Here we go, 886 through to Taylor Swift's birthday. So yeah, pretty interesting. I'm going to leave it there for this one. Whew. But yeah, definitely like today, yesterday into to today was interesting. You know, just tons of interesting numbers right in here, and so what it just becomes really impossible to really, you know, pick out something and actually make a firm. Because I mean, if you've been watching my channel for a while now, you'll see we'll get to a really interesting day. You know, there'll be, you know, 10, 15, sometime, you know, there'll be a multitude of number jumps that work for that day. You think something's going to happen and nothing happens. Okay, so is it just part of the whole story? Probably yes, but actually pinpointing the actual date is extremely hard to do. And it's either just blind luck that you get the right day, or it's some kind of, you know, divine thing going on. If you happen to get the right day picked, you know, God wants that to happen. Wants that sort of story playing out like that. So yeah, but it's absolutely. I mean, I just after the fact, it's easy. You can do another decode after the fact and get as many, you know, references after the fact, and it's like, wow. But there is multiple avenues of there's lots of these decodes. I'm not saying every day decodes out to a, you know, not every day decodes out to a potential event day, but there are multiple opportunities for events to happen, and they don't happen on certain days as well. So it's not like every day's somehow referenced. What am I really trying to say here? There is still some significance. There is definitely still significance to things happening on certain days, but it's just incredibly difficult to predict those certain days because there's still multiple days that those things can happen on. Yeah. I mean, I guess if you could get every single possible, even if you could get, you know, multiple events figured out and multiple dates figured out, you know, it'd still be guesswork. So I don't know. Maybe that's the cunning thing that God does. Is you know, there's hot spots, but it's difficult. You know, it's really simply boils down to a little bit of guesswork as well on the hotspots, on the hotspot dates. Right, I'm leaving it there. Thanks for watching. Got a bit rambly at the end there, but anyway, yeah, yeah, I'll catch you on another one soon. All right, cheers, bye.